but I know what you're talking about.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Judge.
Let's call court back into session. It is 9:01, I think, or 9 o'clock. Okay, I think, Francis, we will, Dustin, unless you have somewhere else to start, we would go back to Francis and let her pick us up where we left off.
That sounds good, Judge.
All right, thank you. All right, Francis?
Yes, sir. All right. So, so yesterday, we tried to kind of wrap up some discussion on personnel, and definitely not any final decisions made, but just so we know, how to put together the proposed budget document and what your feelings are as of this week. So when we left yesterday, we had looked at the 4.5% COLA for retirees. So we've plugged in what that cost, the increase in cost would be for next year. And then, again, looking at 9% COLA, the position increases and new positions that you gave the okay to yesterday. So right now, currently, then, we'd be sitting right at 35% of our, as for our fund balance goal as a percentage of our operating expenditures. And it's right under, that's about 3 million over our goal if you look at it in a dollar amount. So today then, we just want to go back into operating now since we
Can we
kind
go
of
back
Sure.
to the personnel where we left off yesterday with the vacant positions and overtime
Sure.
discussion and things
Yes.
like that? I had some thoughts and,
Okay.
about this and about maybe if we took, so there's 85, how many? 85, 50, let's see, there's 85.
You're talking about just at the jail?
Well, there's there's a couple here that have got a few,
Okay.
but probably across the board, it wouldn't hurt to.
Yeah.
Let's just use the 85 at the jail right now.
Yes.
How many did we decide to eliminate?
And so this was kind of the final thought was, that 85, those top two lines, that was kind of pulled at a certain time.
Yeah.
Anna had pulled that the most up-to-date number was actually 92. So that included those 40 gone. So if you back off the 40, 52. Like 52, I think, was the most up-to-date number of yesterday. So we talked about taking 21 of those and taking the funding for those and housing that money in some way in a contingencies to be used if overtime is needed or if you need to activate those positions, but moving that out of the funding for full-time employees. And then that would leave 31 open positions with budget in there, hoping that, of course,
Things pick up.
yes. So out of 52, 21
Okay.
and funding 31 leaving as is.
So we didn't really eliminate any of them.
No, there was no elimination.
Well,
No elimination
No
out of the
money back.
budget.
What we agreed to yesterday was to move them out of the 21 spots and move them into overtime, just to clean it up, so we don't have money spread all over the place.
Because what's going to happen is if they don't fill those, overtime is going to increase over what they've budgeted. So
So
that,
I just did a quick, simple. If we eliminate 52 positions at $44,000, that's $2,288,000. Why wouldn't we take half of that, 2.288, and move it to overtime? Just move it straight to overtime. Just give that to them in overtime. And then the remaining 1.144, half of that go to contingencies. And then the other half of that go back into the general fund to pay for part of our retiree COLA.
Did you mean 21 instead of 51?
I'm at 52. I mean, there's so many numbers flying around about the amount
I
of
think the only
positions. and
thing,
things
if you
like
took
that.
52, they would have no ability to
So,
hire anybody.
yes, currently 52, like as of yesterday, I think what she presented, 52 is what we're sitting on right now that are open. So-
Okay.
So then, like if you did do that, then they wouldn't have any leeway to hire, to increase, or to decrease that
Right,
number.
and so something else that I had come up with is taking half of that 52, which is 26, which would be 2 a month. That would give them 2 a month. Leave those put those at $1, and then take those numbers that I was just talking about and roll that money into the overtime budget, contingency, and then general fund
Line items.
for the for general purposes, being the retiree COLA, going towards the retiree COLA, things like that, so.
Can we look at that right quick?
And so you're gonna end up saving, so we'll end up actually saving, if you do half, and so you're gonna save, $286,000. I know it's not a lot, but it's,
Hey, that's big to me. How many positions were given back to us that haven't been filled, that they talked about giving back to us?
So there were 40 positions that have never been filled.
And those are the ones that we took out totally?
Correct.
And so past that, those have already been accounted for in your budget calculations, correct?
yeah, that's in the top line of the
Okay,
maintenance
that's
summary.
accounted for. So then they had 52 positions left that they're trying to fill at the jail.
That is correct.
And so we have to, then somewhere there has to be an assumption that they're going to fill those 52, or they're going to fill X number per month. And then what's left over, we need to put back into a contingency fund for overtime, or into an overtime fund. Is that what we're saying? Okay, all of that. But what I hear the commissioner saying is that take a portion of that,
Well,
put it back in
keep in
general.
mind, I think they had 900,000 budgeted for overtime already.
Already.
So anything you move back into that is just gonna exponentially, I mean, it.
So that'd be $1.4 million in overtime then.
Right.
And I saw where y'all had, where y'all in the overtime budget right now, there's $1,250,000.
In the proposed? Mm-hmm. And we also know.
Oh, excuse me, no, that's not right.
And we know that those aren't gonna all get
There's
filled up
500
front.
There's 591,000 in there, excuse me.
So as they hire, the overtime, I mean, there should be an adjustment.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about yesterday. For every 44,000 they hire, there's a $72,000 savings in overtime. Is that correct? Using the number 44?
Yeah, usually time and a half.
For every 44,000 you hire, there's a $72,000
As long as
adjustment.
overtime's adequately funded, there's no risk of,
Yeah.
as we hire more, overtime comes down and vice versa. So if you can't hire more,
Yeah.
it's already there. It's what do we do with the excess, I think is what Commissioner's getting at. And I agree with him, we need to look at that.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity.
Well, and the calculation that you just figured on what overtime was to a $44,000 employee is just that one employee. That doesn't mean that every employee that you hire is going to be needed to do overtime. So I don't know that that's a good number to do.
Yeah,
I think,
because there may be some overtime employees who have higher salaries.
well, once you get up to a certain staffing level, it cut, that alone gives you efficiency in how to allocate your overtime. So I think the plan, that originally it was 900,000 in there that came from from SO, and so what we're talking about doing is just modifying that a little bit, and just remember is hiring increases. We very well may and hopefully be able to move unneeded money out of the overtime budget to whatever back into salary. So the thing we can't do, and I don't think anybody, I think everybody understands this, that we're going to hire every applicant that they got a need for, and we're going to find the money either that doesn't need to be used out of overtime or out of the general fund.
Well, I was just trying to get some money back into.
And I still think,
Yeah.
I still think that's a possibility.
I think
Yeah.
that's a possibility, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Just look at it and
Adding 572 to the overtime budget and
Can we go to that overtime budget? It's not up there.
286 to the,
Sorry, I was gonna bring that up.
Okay, so current jailer, after the 10%, 47,281. So the cost with all the benefits is gonna be the 57,848.
okay, that makes my number bigger than,
Yes, so, just tacking all those on. So. Is that in return? What is that? Oh, that's just, okay, sorry. And so then the total cost of those 52 positions, just using that figure, is right over $3 million. And so then just kind of breaking those up. So if I know Commissioner Jones was throwing out 26 and 26 and different things like that, but we just had 21. If you took 21 of those and moved that amount into some form of overtime, then you're looking there at 1.2 million.
But what's already budgeted?
What was
You
already
gotta add the
budgeted?
two together. You gotta add
Yes.
that number plus what's already budgeted.
Correct. So that's just going to add to what they've already budgeted.
What is that?
What was already budgeted?
937,500.
yeah, see, and that's going to be way too much money. I mean,
Much.
Yeah, they've only
yeah,
brought-
I mean, we're not, as I said, if we over budget in overtime and under budget on staffing or vice versa, we've got the ability to move that easily laterally across, as well as if both of them are up, we have to come to the general fund to cover it. So, I mean, I think we just pick a number.
Yeah, and we can play with these numbers here. We're going to kind of show you what
What's projected this year in overtime?
total we should be between 1.8 and 2 million. Right.
And that should come down.
What were you multiplying that 21 times? 21 times 57 or 47?
57 is the total cost.
But if, okay, but the 21 open positions don't have FICA, Social Security, and retirement in them. They should only have, should it just be figured on salary?
No, it should be on, your total cost is, well, it's just it just depends if you can.
I mean, it's
You're gonna have the
gonna,
same- You're gonna have the same
you're not
benefits.
gonna have the
but
FICA and
It's
the
where we put it
Social
though.
Security. and
So we
stuff
wouldn't,
like that.
if they're not gonna use it and you're wanting to put it in contingency, we would wanna move all of it. So it's just kind of, depends on how we wanna
That's an accounting thing.
maneuver it. But yeah, the benefits, if you're a full-time employee or part-time, or, overtime, same benefits there. It's just where it's budgeted.
Then Will,
So
are
they're
Will,
projected at $1,675,000.
Okay. So, okay. So Haley reminded me, well, you asked me what the projection was for this year. And then we did need to adjust a tiny bit for the 10% that you approved for the rest of the year. So if you'll see there, so for next year, or what next year, the original budget, they have $963,000. We're projecting this year to spend right over 2 million. So hoping that number does come down, we could look at, next year projecting or estimating that, do you do you kind of come in the middle there and say, you know, 1.6 is a number we've looked at? And so then that
That's
would-
what you have on your spreadsheet. That's what you have projected at Jack Harwell and the jail is in Highway 6 is $1,675,000.
And it's ever changing every day, every pay period, and so that's just, you know, eventually,
Right. So
since
what's a
that
safe-
increase.
What's a safe number we can discuss about
So,
moving to a contingency?
So-
$500,000?
so so yes, I think that if you moved if you took $500,000 out of those positions that you want to not fund for next year, and you put in some sort of line item or just straight into overtime, which to me would, you know, maybe the best just to stick it in overtime. But if you added $500,000, then that would budget 1.463 for next year, or have available for overtime for next year.
I'm good with that.
Okay, so then, if we just took, and again, I'm using that 21 position, and I know Will had thrown out a different number, so tell me we can adjust that number. But so then, if we just took $500,000, then that would leave right over 700,000 that, like you said, you could take out, you could sit in general fund contingencies, you could use to make a lump sum payment to TCDRS.
I'm just talking about, you know, just to offset what we spent, what we're gonna spend on a retiree COLA.
Yes, and you know, so yes, so that could just, like you said,
Okay,
just
we
be,
are absolutely on the same page. now.
account for that.
So how do you offset that by making a
So,
pay into TCDRS? Is that how you
so
offset
if you
it?
don't want to do that, I think what he's saying is, if we're decreasing the money that's budgeted here for these positions, and you increased your retirement, you're kind of at a wash for next year.
Yep. Exactly.
Close, not exactly, of course, but you know, just.
We're not there yet.
Yes.
I would just like to have that $850,000, whatever that is. You know, I'd like to come up with some cuts to make up for that. 838,000.
So we know we can get that from somewhere.
Yeah. And a big portion of it, I think, needs to come from these
Positions not
these
used.
positions. If it's not, maybe making them $1 placeholder or whatever, or eliminating them, or.
Okay,
And we know we can come back. I mean, we created, how many positions when we took over Jack Harwell in the middle of the budget year? So,
It's
a lot.
it's not as if
it's
this
not
is-
as if it's,
Right.
yeah,
In this moment, this works. If something
Right.
changes, we can adjust.
yeah.
Are you saying those positions that are, the, beyond
I'd
these?
almost say just put it like $1 placeholder. I know we're trying to get away from that, but
no, I'm with you on this. So I think, and just to summarize, and y'all tell me, make sure I'm understanding, everyone's on the same page. So we have 52 open right now. If we take 21 of those, we put in a placeholder for those. You know, if they filled all 52, I think y'all would be thrilled with that. But taking those 21, putting a placeholder, and then what's budgeted for those, moving $500,000 of it to their overtime lines. The remainder of it would just be used to offset the increased costs for retiree COLA. We would then leave the other 31 vacant positions fully funded and full-time employees that hopefully they are able to run with and fill quickly this year. That would be our dream. So does that,
Pretty much.
okay.
That sounds
And, you know, like he was saying,
reasonable to
we
me.
can adjust that number here and there and make the number what you want it to be, but at least that gives us some starting point.
I like that.
Okay. Okay. Okay, perfect.
Is there a consensus on that?
Yes.
I'm good. I just can't see everybody.
You're better off for that.
That's what I was thinking. So, Francis, I'm assuming that's a consensus, so
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, put it down. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay,
I guess just nodding our head doesn't get it, Judge, is that what you're trying to say?
Well, I'd have to change my screen a little bit,
We don't want you to do that.
or I can contact some of my spies that are sitting around in there.
Call for a vote?
Are there any other areas that they haven't filled for the last 2 years that we could do the same thing with a placeholder?
Might as well cover it while we're on it. Let's look at it and see.
Did you hear the question?
I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Are there any other areas that we haven't filled that have a significant number? You know, I'm talking about like
So-
above 5, maybe.
So when you get into like juvenile, again, set by the
can't do-
juvenile board,
don't touch.
you know, y'all can have conversations with them about that. Adult probation, they're not really even it's a convoluted affair. They're not a county office. Like they show up even as an agency fund in our financial statements. Their positions, we do not touch their salaries. It's all set by the state, and they are 100% grant funded.
Okay.
No dollar comes to you in any way
There's no-
for their
yeah.
personnel. So then, like you said, there's then you go down and you do have some departments that Anna had noted that have between 4 and 6. There's a handful.
What if we just had the policy that if it's been unfilled for over two, 3, I mean, I'm throwing throwing numbers out there. Over 2 years, I think 2 years is a plenty good time, plenty enough time. If it's been over 2 years, it moves to a dollar placeholder.
And then they can bring that back to you.
Yeah, and they can bring it back to us
that's-
for funding. And half of it going to contingency and half of it going to bottom line,
And
general fund balance.
definitely. And Anna and I can touch base on that after we meet, because I know some of those, like she said, it may be different positions. So if you wanted to look at like that, one specific position has
And I
been vacant
think-
that long.
And I
Because
think
sometimes
that,
it bounces, around.
between now and Thursday, if somebody wants to lobby us about, hey, I've got somebody coming tomorrow to get this spot or whatever, then
That's fine. But
then we can certainly look at it.
I don't really, in my mind, it doesn't matter to me if this department's had 6 openings for 2 years, that they're all the same. It's just the fact they've got 6 openings. That's, in other words, it may be position A 1 year, position B the next year, position C the next, you know what I'm saying? But they've had 6 total. If they have total, that's where I think we need to put the placeholder and move that money, as the commissioner said, somewhere that makes more sense.
Like I said, we'll get with Anna and then, just look exactly what that would be. Because, I know some of these were averaged and things like that. So we'll get you that, and then we can.
If you wanted to do a
revisit that
starting
Tuesday.
salary as the base for it, so we don't overestimate, that's fine too.
Okay.
Well, so it almost would behoove us to maybe go into to give that, if we're gonna estimate on taking this away, we maybe want to take away on so I'm having a hard time on this, either high or low. Understand what I'm saying? But if those on those in the salary schedule, there is an amount. So it doesn't matter what. I mean, if that amount just goes, it doesn't matter what the high or the low is.
Like you mean
You
like in a
understand what I'm
range?
saying? Yeah, on the
Well,
range.
Yes,
It would,
yeah,
it would dictate how much you put
So,
over into contingency.
We come in, it's just like any salary. They, on the salary form, where they just come in and they say, okay, I want it to be this. and then we up or down it, right?
Yes. And, you know, and like you said, that number in the budget is the max. That's the max, and that's what we make sure that they abide by and don't exceed. But anything up to that, of course, like you said,
Yeah.
is up for discretion. Okay.
Okay.
Good deal.
Okay.
Okay. Well, then we will, start sorting through some of these other items that we've been trying to get to. I want to start, I guess it was probably Tuesday. We had passed out a packet to you, and it kind of showed you like big picture operating wise, where the increases were, where, you know, was that in a certain line item across the board? Was it in a certain department, a certain type of expense? We've made a lot of changes since Tuesday. So your totals aren't going to line up perfectly if you look at our spreadsheet, but it's still gonna serve our purpose, I think, for what we wanna do. So I guess if I'm gonna go to the department. We were sitting at, on Tuesday, sitting at an increase of about $4 million over last year's operating. Oh, no, you're good. And so we just really wanted to break that up into different ways so that, you know, you could feel good about it and know what was really making that up. We did go through the departments that had increases the week before last. I know that's been a while. I know you're good. And so we'll get it up here soon. And so right now, I think I'd like to go by department and go to the department with the highest increase and then start going down the list from there. So if you sorted all departments, saw what the increase was, and then highest to lowest, looking at those priority wise. So, and I'm sorry, we're good. No, you're good. We're having some technological. But our first department that has the largest increase is capital outlay. So that's in Department 7920.
How much is that made up by the elections?
2 million of it is the elections equipment is what we have in there now. And again, that is in there, and you know, that may be purchased before the end of the year, but either way, it's gonna affect the bottom line the
Right,
same.
yeah, right.
So we'll just monitor that through the next month.
I mean, Scott, would this be a bond item at all?
Yes, it could be because, you know, if you take the existing voting equipment that we have right now, we've had it for more than a decade. So anytime you have an asset that, you know, has.
So that was mine.
I think it would, but Francis or Dustin, well, one thing, it's got to be, it's in our bond language, it's got to identify generally, you know, in a broad sense of what we can spend the money on. So that's a Dustin or Francis question, I think.
Right, and the last few bonds have been broad enough to cover that, and then the upcoming CO, past COs and upcoming CO, and Francis can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, no, I agree.
Okay, so
We have an option, Commissioner Jones, to either pull it out of either fund. We can bond it, use bond funds, or out of capital improvement.
Well, let's discuss the merits of it. You know,
how much in there is voting equipment?
$2 million.
2
2
million out
million.
of this. Goodness.
and he's not gonna have a strong quote. He's not gonna have a final quote for quite a while, is my feeling.
Yes, this was his best estimate
Right.
for all in. So, you know, I know there's lots of pieces. There's
The
the,
prices come way down on that equipment.
And it has.
because he went a
Already
different.
has. It was $10 million when we first started talking about it.
Right.
So the actual cost is less than 2 million, but there's, as far as I know, and Jared may be on, but there's ancillary
Sure.
cost to this as well. And some of those may need to be broke out and not put in the bond because they don't qualify because they're,
Yeah, like
Thanks.
the paper and the toner and
yeah,
things like
and,
that.
yeah, that's right. And then storage cost and, you know, we're gonna have some moving expenses and things like that, so.
And I did just want to point out the demos are set up for next week. I believe they come to court at an early meeting in August, and Jared has talked to both companies. They have inventory and would be able to deliver it this year if the court chose to by September 30th, or they should be able to do that. And we've received contracts from both Hart and ES&S, and Mike has reviewed those and made changes. And so we will be ready to, if the court wants to move forward this budget year, we're going to have everything in place to help make that happen.
So
Yeah,
we can put
everything-
that on the 21 bond?
Yes, so the way the statement of the bond is written, yes, this would be
Okay.
an
Then
allowable.
let's pull it.
And then
So then
why,
that's-
so why would we not, I guess is what I'm gonna ask you.
Well, that's where, you know,
There's a
if you're sitting on,
consensus.
if you're sitting on those funds and, you know, we have a large project looming over us and you want to save those and use those for that. I know there's a new bond issuance in the works right now, and then if you plan on, of course, getting one in a future year, but it's just, you know, how do you know,
And we're putting,
what do you want to use it for?
and so bridges, which we've decided would go, we're putting those off. We're putting some of those off into the next budget year. When we
Yeah, and
have
those are
the
in general,
additional-
yeah. And,
additional bond funds. So I'm.
I'm for moving it, whether we pay for it out of this year's budget or bond funds, either one, I'm for moving it out of the budget for next year.
yeah, well, if you want it in general fund, I would just think of it as, do you want to use general fund proceeds or do you want to use bond proceeds?
Bond.
Bond.
Okay.
That's first choice.
So if then that's what you want to do, what we'll do is on the next regular agenda, we'll bring forward so that, since this is, you know, not an item on this one, we'll bring it forward as a budget amendment within that bond fund, and then you can all formally, okay that.
But it can be pulled from here.
Yes, so if that's the way we're gonna go, then yes, we can, pull that out.
Okay.
And thinking back to Jared's update to court, I think the plan was to, on August the 9th, to have a specially called commissioners court meeting, to have demos from both vendors actually in the court. And so I will confirm with Jared that that's still the thought process.
Have demos again?
And to kind of have a public demo of them, so the public would be able to see it demoed in commissioners court.
Oh, okay. Okay, because next week they're going to be here, with some invited persons to come in from the parties and so forth to look at them, right?
Yes, sir. And then that's on the 27th, I believe. And then on the 9th would be I guess, a public presentation by the vendors is a better way to put it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so,
As I understand it, we will receive a recommendation, post-review recommendation from representatives of both parties as well, so,
That ought to be fun.
yeah. But all indications are because they've both seen,
Yeah, right. They're all on the same
I think they're
page.
in sync on those.
I think they're all ready to change and it's gonna be beneficial. And, you know, I think they might have their mind made up now, but they're gonna go through one more demonstration.
Okay.
so if we back that out of the general fund here, your increase, and this is not a road and bridge capital outlay, those are in within specific road and bridge departments, but other capital outlay, it's just an increase of about $57,000 from the prior year. And so, of course, there's different requests every year, but if we want to go through those and see what you feel. So the top line, maintenance of equipment, and David presented all of these that first week, but they had an Econo car wash system for the maintenance of equipment department out of the jail. You'll see that $5,529. And then for the sheriff's office, there were 2 canine requested. Night vision, and then a different night vision system, security cameras for their building, a box to organize their crime scene unit vehicle. And then there was 1 transport Suburban, 14 Tahoes, and 1 unmarked. 16 is the number that they have had agreed that they would ask for 16 and rotate those out. I have pulled what we have currently as so far as all vehicles total. Yesterday it was brought up, you know, I know what you're saying, like each year, what did we buy? What did we retire? And then what was our fleet number at the end of the year? I was trying to pull that for today, and there's some there's some things that kind of need to manually be looked at to give y'all, I think, the information that would help you make this decision. And so I just apologize, but I was not able to get that pulled for this morning, but we will have that for you on.
And we can get like a 3, 4, 5-year history of those numbers,
Yes.
how they,
I'd like to see
Yes, it was, to combine it, it wasn't working the way I wanted it. I wanted to give you something that you could really
Okay.
use, so.
All right.
But this is the consistent number that they've asked for is 16.
And so your report will be all departments that have rolling stock.
Correct. And I can tell you, I mean, we can pull up what I pulled, just as of today, what vehicles are we sitting on, if you want to look at that, now.
I mean,
Yeah, how many vehicles are in the fleet right now? That'd be good.
So currently, and these are just, vehicles, I know the sheriff's office keeps their list for maintenance reasons, and theirs has utility vehicles and trailers and things, so these are just actual vehicles. But you'll see there.
Vehicles?
these are
Yes.
not trailers and things you pull, these are things you drive.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And so, adult probation has 3. We pulled all. Constable precinct 1 has 9. Sheriff 137. Engineering 2, IT has 2. Jail 8. Juvenile has 9 together. MOB has 12. Maintenance of equipment has 4, and then archives has 1. I was reading those. I don't know if the judge is able to see the list, but.
I can see it.
Okay.
And you got the same list like for Road and Bridge and other.
Okay, so road and bridge, I pulled out, and again, we can dissect it but so many of the vehicles are a vehicle, but also equipment that you're using, so, we just have to kind of, it's a water truck or it's a motor grader, or, so it was hard for me just to pull that out quickly, but
Okay.
we'll definitely have that.
I'm talking more, I'm not talking about equipment. This is just
Yes,
straight.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
pickup cars, that kind of stuff.
On the highways.
Yeah.
Vehicles with license plates,
Yes.
whatever that's called.
And these are active, again, just active vehicles that we have, that are either fully depreciated or in the middle of their depreciation.
Yeah, and so can we come back to that then when we get a
Yes.
printout of that
Yes,
information?
Yes. And again, like, in the binder, it shows you how many were bought each year, but I think looking at like that number that's retired as well is very important. So,
Yes.
this will kind of highlight that. So,
I saw that.
so then again, just, their request for this year is consistent with the plan that was agreed upon, some years back, 16 a year, rotate out, so that all of their vehicles were less than a certain number of years old. And then also at the jail, there was a tilting skillet for the kitchen.
Isn't that replacing the current one?
It is,
The curtain's been welded
Yes.
and everything else.
yes. So that's the list for the sheriff's office departments, or the departments that fall under the sheriff, excuse me. Maintenance of buildings, they had a request for a truck as well as 2 floor scrubbers. I know when TJ.
So there's no way in the world that they're gonna buy a 3/4 ton, 4-door truck for 48.6, unless it's got, 150,000 miles. Did they have? Is there a hard quote on that, or is it? What's that? What's the?
Try to remember, we'll pull it back up.
Or is he looking used, maybe?
I mean, he'd have to be used, but at that, I mean,
Yeah,
it's-
80 grand probably, right?
Yeah.
And when he spoke on it, he did make a comment. He said, we could wait 1 more year to replace the vehicle that this is replacing.
Wait.
That was thrown out there when he was here, so. Not a formal quote, that was just an estimate that he had provided.
See if we can wait 1 more year, pull it.
Bullet.
Okay.
And then,
That is a consensus there, Judge.
I keep forgetting.
Okay. All right, and just, I mean, there again, I want to say, when we talk about not trading vehicles when we need to, it ends up costing us more. So I trust if, well, TJ would know if that one can go another year or not. So if he says it can, I'm good with that, but we don't want to get in the
Do you
same mess.
understand my concern about the amount that was put on there?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. And I also understand, I'm with you on beginning inventory, ending inventory on rolling stock and how is it growing ahead of our overall county growth and those kind of things. That's a perfect thing to be working on.
Hey, Judge, this is TJ. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes, we are more than fine with trying to get by another year. The van will definitely make it that long. It's not a problem at all. And then Commissioner Jones, to your question about the price, that is a used price. It is a new price. You know, you're well aware we had 2 vehicles last year. We had a problem trying to get those. We're finally able to get them in this month. So that would be used, new, whatever we could find on the market. That's why it's very vague.
Okay,
On
so
the
you're not
description.
necessarily set on a 3/4 ton 4-door truck.
Well, it definitely needs to be 3/4 ton because we do have plans to pull equipment with it.
Okay.
But it does not have to be a 4-door. We could find an extended cab or something of that nature that we could work with.
As long as it's 3/4 ton.
Right.
Yeah, I get that.
And so then the floor scrubbers were his other request. That's for 2 of those. Constable Precinct 1, the request was for 2 patrol vehicles. You have consistently purchased 1 vehicle for their office each year. He is requesting 2 this year. You know, as you purchase them, they are replacing their older vehicles, of course, with the newer. They were receiving the, hate to use the word, hand-me-downs from the sheriff's office as they were done with them, if they were usable. And so again, we were on a system to replace 1 a year, but he is requesting 2 this year. So,
1.
perfect.
Okay. Consensus?
Great. Okay, and then adult probation, the one in orange, Mr. Sigmund came and spoke on the need for a vehicle that had the,
Cage.
was set up, yes, so that when they
Cage.
transport people, his people do carry weapons so that there's safety.
Is there not another way that can be achieved
So
without
you
buying
had-
a
you
patrol
had-
vehicle?
Yeah, you had told him, you said, hey, could you look at maybe like a private transport or some other
Yeah.
option? We haven't heard anything yet. I had reached out and it sounded like, did he happen to send y'all anything on that?
No,
Okay.
not that I've seen.
Okay,
But I guess my question would be, have we looked at talking with maintenance of equipment about the difficulty of installing a cage in one of the current vehicles? If that's not a possibility, or is
Right.
it?
Yeah, because a police interceptor is, I mean, that's a frontline vehicle to get out on the road and for law enforcement purposes. And I understand where he's coming from and I agree, but I think we can accomplish that, Jim, similar to what you're saying, just see what we can do about putting a cage in a normal vehicle.
If the vehicles are large enough vehicles to where there's enough leg room when you put that cage in, if it creates any, because sometimes with that cage, you have to move that front seat back some. And is that gonna still create enough leg room in the back for transporting a prisoner? I guess, you don't wanna turn them sideways, you gotta put them in a seatbelt. So,
And I know they need it, but I think he was saying it's only a couple times a week maybe, or a few times a month.
I would like for him to get with,
Yes.
Michael.
wasn't
I
daily.
would like for him to get with Michael Graham and talk with him
Okay.
under maintenance of equipment.
We'll
And see if it's
continue.
possible to outfit one.
okay, we'll continue that discussion then with him and see what the options are there.
Francis,
Yes, sir.
sorry, I was gonna say, I know Ken had done some research and contacted a company or two, and so I think he's on and would
Oh,
like to
good.
comment.
Yeah, I was hunting up that quote. I talked to Techstar Security, who is our agency that has a man out at juvenile. And they gave us a quote on transporting folks. And I was interjecting because you're talking on it, but at the same time, I was trying to hunt for that quote that I got. And if you'll come back to me in a minute, I'll be able to speak a little bit more confidently about what I'm talking about.
Ken, I think I have it. I can share my screen if,
Okay.
is this what you were looking for, Ken, with your
Yeah.
estimated cost?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Again, I took the numbers that they had transports in 2020, 21, 22. I tried to add it all up, and with estimates from that I got from Techstar Security, and charges related would be about $35 per man hour and $1 per mile. And this was the estimated cost that I came up with for using Techstar Security as a transporting agency. That accounted for 2 men in a car, or excuse me, 2 people in the car, because I understand, you know, if they're transporting a female, you got to have a female in the car. And so this was the estimated cost that I figured out using Techstar Security.
Well,
Their main areas are going to San Angelo and Lubbock.
Wow.
so this isn't gonna work, but.
Yeah, and the last line there in 2022, that's 6 months, so
That's 6
Right.
months worth.
it's gonna be about 40,000.
So it comes back to, do we have a vehicle that can be retrofitted?
Yes.
And,
And if we don't, then we go with what there is.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. We just need to go back with the Michael Graham question.
Okay, perfect.
And SO and mental health, they transport some mental health folks. We can look at what they drive and what they recommend too.
And so we will revisit that line. And then lastly, information technology. She had 4 requests through discussion with her that first week. She decided that she could wait or didn't have an urgent need for the bottom 3. So we went ahead and put placeholders there. But there was just one ask, and this was a roll forward from this current year, but it's to recable the jail and the courthouse. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Good deal.
What's next?
All right. So then the next department with the largest increase would be our countywide road and bridge department. So there's an increase there of about 1.3 million. That increase is $1 million of it is for the line item where you are contracting out these large bridge projects. So based on Zane's original listing, he was estimating 3 million for projects for this next year. So I know since then there's been further discussion on moving some of those to future years. We were hoping to get him in today. And Zane, are you on by chance?
Francis, Zane is actually off today,
Oh,
and
okay,
so
okay.
hoping we could just do that on Tuesday.
And he did send an email out that indicates what he thinks needs to be done in 23 and what can wait till 24.
Okay.
And it made sense to me when I looked at it.
I haven't seen that one yet. So if one of y'all can
Yeah.
just forward it to me when you get it, and so do you remember, is it close to 2 million that maybe we should go ahead and just budget?
Hang
or-
on, if you give me just a second, I can tell you.
Thank you.
You know, he's very careful to say that, you know, that's the commissioner's call, but he prioritized them. And if a commissioner wants to cut some, he's got a recommendation about which ones to cut.
Let's see if I can find him right quick.
The other thing is, it's so hard to get projects done in a timely fashion anyway, but with the inflation and workforce shortage and those things, that waiting another year, if you can, and it's safe, might be the smart thing to do anyway.
Yeah, give me a minute and I'll find
course.
this.
And then while we're pulling that information, the other increase here was the line item for the roadside cleanup. And so, we discussed that. We put in what that cost would be, the daily cost for the full year. And then, of course, there was a corresponding decreases, not quite that amount, but close to it in the McPups departments. So increase here, but decreases in those other departments. And then line items remain the same for professional services, for right-of-way purchases. There is the ongoing McGregor Road project, so that is based on the contract. So that number is just per the contract, just an estimate put in there. So it probably, I would assume, we'll keep an eye on that before August is out and see if we have any updated estimates there. But
So there's a $3 million basically contingency on that infrastructure.
yes, so that would be based on those specific projects that Zane had.
That's the specific project line.
Yes.
And that's the original estimate. That was the original cost, the
Yes,
3 million.
Yes, but I think, it's been pared down. Hey, realistically,
And Francis, I found that email from Zane, and it's showing for an FY23 priority of $2,045,300.
okay.
So there's a project that we're working on currently that I'm probably gonna need some extra money for, and unfortunately, it's long overdue. So
I think, he brought that specifically up when I was talking to Zane, and he was saying that's got to be done.
are you talking about Elmont?
Yeah, I believe
Okay.
that was the one he said that's gotta happen.
Yeah.
So I
So,
think he
and-
factored that.
I just,
Hey, if you don't mind, Dustin, can you read the projects that he's recommending for 24 and, or 23? Yeah, so that way each commissioner can kind of look and.
Yes, sir. Let me share my screen. All right, can y'all see that okay?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So let's start at precinct 1. It would show FY23 priority of Bullhide Creek Road, Creek Stabilization Project. And then moving to FY24 would be 12th Street Bridge over Flat Creek, and that's the waiting on FEMA note.
Right.
y'all might still
Precinct.
be waiting on that one.
Yeah, we don't have, we've been waiting on it quite a while.
So
We're waiting on really the city of Waco, I
It-
think. with-
literally 10 years, I think. I mean, the whole time I've been here, 12th Street Bridge has been on precinct 1.
Well, we did some work with it at one time, but
Didn't work.
it didn't work. Well,
Washed out the head wall, didn't it?
yeah, head wall.
Precinct 2, Thompson Road Bridge Repair. He has a note of needing a consultant. That's for FY23. Then FY24 is 7 Mile Road Bridge, Vernal Road, and Trading Post Road. And moving up to precinct 3, Hazelwood Avenue Bridge design only. And then that's for FY23. For FY24, Hazelwood Bridge construction, Rainier Road, Trillica Road, and then 2 on Holy Road, as marked as.
The Elmont's not in there, and we're gonna have to have some extra money for it. I think it's about 300,
320.
320.
Suzanne gave me the details.
Okay, and Zane said he would be, of course, prepared on Tuesday to discuss this as well. He had a meeting to attend this morning. And precinct 4 for FY23 is Road Creek Bridge, Prairie Chapel at Bluff Creek Bridge repair, and Panther Branch Road Bridge construction. And then moving to FY '24 was North Crooked Creek Road Bridge, Willow Grove Road, Army Bridge, and Spiegelville flooding community-wide possible issue.
Okay. I'm good with what, for precinct 4, I'm good with that.
And there's those totals at the bottom.
So it basically shaved $1 million off, right?
Yes, so if we take that 2,045,000, if we add 320,000 to it, we could plug that number in there for
And so
discussion.
here's the other piece to that. How much of this is bond funds?
So you could take any of these you wanted. You could say, okay, that $400,000 Bullhead Creek, we want to use bond proceeds for that. This, of course, is completely acceptable as well. So it's just, but I think you have the money in general fund to spend for this. You have the fund balance sitting. So, but again, it's just, what do you want to use your bond proceeds for?
Well, again, so these are
Some of these are large enough. that
40, 50-year projects,
And
also too. That's another part of the equation to think about.
And I can see a few $100,000 working it out of the general fund in the budget, but if it's a large amount, it should, I've got one that's gonna be a little over $1 million, and I certainly was counting on bond proceeds for that.
I have one, just kind of random thought on that, so it's kind of big picture. So if our fund balance we ended higher than our fund balance goal, and so, we're eating into that fund balance with this next year's budget. So when we budget, to cover that budgeted amount, you're using you're using fund balance and you're using revenues, which mostly includes your tax rate. So to me, I like some of these bigger projects, if you can use your fund balance sitting there for those projects instead of, if you look at it and you're like, oh, we could lower the tax rate this low, you're gonna get yourself in a bind in future years where, you know what I'm saying, that your fund balance is not always going to be that high and you're not always gonna have that to rely on. So to keep your, if you're looking at the no new revenue rate, leaving
So
that, does that?
And then, so your conclusion would be, I don't mean to step on you, but
No,
your
no.
conclusion would be to use the bond funds to
Well-
keep our fund balance safe.
Well, I think if you're wanting to not keep it too high and you're trying to get it down.
Get it down, spend
it.
it out of there, yeah.
Yes,
sure.
and of course you want to do, no new revenue rate is your goal for sure, but you don't want to bring that down too far and then again, like I said, get
Right.
yourself in a bind.
Yeah.
The last couple
Like we were
years,
10 years ago.
yes, and the last couple years, I think there's been a lot of steps that you've taken to, just like we talked about today, paring down the budget so that we are not way over budget. And so as we continue to make those changes, that amount that we're coming under budget every year, that little safety net that we're rolling into the next year and using will be diminishing, and that's good. But just something to just kind of see.
And one more caveat. There is the bipartisan infrastructure bill.
Yes.
But, I'm not holding my breath for that.
I know, me too.
I mean, I think it warrants
Some effort, at least
a
try.
lot of consideration.
And that's a good point, and that's why hopefully we'll get the consulting firm on board here in the next few weeks and be able to jump right on these and see what's available. But I think, like you said, Commissioner Jones, is I wouldn't bet my life on those happening, but if they do, leave us more fun. The other thing on the INS rate, for one reason not to overload the bond side is that, if we can hold that INS rate and not have to go up, then we would have adequate ability to service debt for growth, which we're going to have over the next several years. So I think, Francis I think she's trying to say a good balanced approach towards how we fund these things is going to be important.
But see, your INS goes down as your valuations go up. So, I mean, that,
Don't we need bond money for some projects that we've got. I mean, we don't want.
But
We
the
all-
whole point being is when we went out and got that, we got it
Yeah,
for
we've always put,
large bridge
we've always
projects.
put road projects, large
Right.
road
So I
projects.
don't wanna see us get away from that, cause we have a total over, that's a different thought philosophy and budget now. We've always done large road projects with bond money, and $1 million bridge is a large project.
Yes, it is.
A $200,000, that might be something you can cover within your budget in the general fund, but when they get sizable enough, I
Well, go
think-
back and look at the projects again.
Oh, sure. Oh, that was Dustin, sorry.
Oh, Dustin, can you put them back up?
Yes, sir. Give me 1 second.
Okay, where are we starting?
I'm gonna try to zoom out, but there we go.
So
And y'all just let me know when you want me to scroll down.
Scroll down, we'll start with one.
Okay.
It's a small enough project that we, you know, 12th Street is next year, so that's not consideration. So really, the Bullhide Creek erosion, the road erosion, the creek eroding into the actual road is what, 400 he's got estimated, 400 total? And
Yes, sir.
We haven't even really started with a consulting engineer. To me, that's small enough to where we wouldn't worry. That's something we could pay out of,
Right.
pay down, so.
And so, yeah, like I said, we can definitely, if you know, direct us to move these over to bond funding. And when you said they're
Leave
small,
it.
when you look at them as a total, they're,
I've got one that I would definitely want to move to the bonds. And it's the Panther Branch. The other two I'm not concerned with, that Panther Branch, I would like to move to a bond.
And that's 845,300.
Yes, sir.
That makes sense.
okay.
And y'all got our, y'all noted ours.
Yes.
Okay.
So if we take this sheet, less Panther Branch, and then add 320,000 for the name, I don't know the name of that. Yes, that, whatever the name of that one was. We can plug that in and so that would show that we were budget 1.52 million. And let me know when y'all are
Okay,
done with
yeah,
that
we
sheet.
can go with,
We'll move over.
everybody through with that screen, so.
Go down to the bottom.
Hold it.
Poor Dustin.
Sorry. Sorry about that. So we went from what? We went from 245 to,
So we originally had put 3 million in. That was just Zane's first estimate, but then moved it down to the 2045, less Panther Branch, which, you know, just moving to to the bond funds and then adding the Road and Bridge 3 project.
So that drops it to
1.52 million.
152.
Okay,
Um,
and that includes the Lake Forest, correct?
that's the 320 Lake Forest. Is that? Okay.
Perfect.
And then, you know, I know we don't want to, of course, budget for anything we don't anticipate, but, I mean, is that a line item that you want to put an amount if something happened and you needed to quickly move on a project unexpectedly? Or we could always use bond proceeds as well, but I just want to make sure
What did we have last, didn't we have a countywide? What was in it?
2 million. Again, and based on a schedule, you know, similar to this.
and we got 2 million in it again now. Two,
1.5.
1.5 this year? I would probably leave that alone.
Okay. That's,
I mean, that,
leave it at the 2,
the 1.5,
at the 1.5.
that's what's budgeted this year, right?
yes, and so that would be based, very tied exactly to Zane's schedule, what is needed per the estimates there. Of course, those are estimates, so,
Now, that's what we have up right now is Dustin's
Yeah.
spreadsheet.
This is Zane.
This,
Send it.
sorry, this is Zane, yeah, this
Can
is
we move to
Zane's.
yours then? Can we move to, okay, there's your, okay.
So then that just shows that, we're budgeting specifically for those projects.
So we're gonna go from 2 to 1.52, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And that's a line item that
Commissioner.
can change drastically from year to year. Sorry.
Mr. Perry,
Yes, sir.
on that McGregor Road project, it's got, looking at right, so is that the amount that would be in the next budget year, is saying?
That is something, yes, but that's something that we need to talk about because we are way ahead of schedule. And so I need to see how that's gonna change what we project.
Okay.
So if you would, let me get with the guys early next week, but that's probably gonna change just because we are way ahead of schedule right now.
Okay.
Oh, on what's projected, I didn't understand what he was.
The McGregor Road
Oh,
project.
yes.
That number could change just because we're getting so much more of it done in 22
Yes.
than expected, so.
And we'll just, before we adopt in August, that's one of the ones we'll come back to and make sure that
Okay,
we feel good about the number in there.
good. Thank you.
Yeah,
George. I appreciate you picking that up.
And the other one is the Mark project, so there's right at $120,000 left, right? Correct, and so you're leaving it, it'd be zeroed out.
Are they gonna be able to finish that by
Yeah. Yeah.
September 30?
Oh, yeah, they were getting this money is for what's called connecting roads, and those were kind of on the tail end of the project. They've got a lot of the little inner city roads done. And they were gonna do this one here fairly quickly, I think,
And
according to
that-
the,
And you'll see that numbers in projected, the 119. That check has been issued. The check is actually sitting on my desk. It's just waiting for our engineer to kind of give it the go-ahead that he
Yeah.
is satisfied with the
Yeah.
progress. So,
that's right.
yes, sir.
And I think that's all I have on, all I have.
So I think then, if we feel comfortable with that for now, that we can check off that department.
Okay,
Our next department, I'm just kind of going through the increases, was information technology, and that was because of the IT assessments. And we concluded that discussion yesterday, so we should be able to check that off based on what you decided yesterday.
Okay.
Our countywide or non-departmental department, there is a large increase there, and we'll show you what those increases are. A lot of things you'll find in the countywide department are out of our control a lot of times, or based on set
I have
contracts.
something to say, and we need to look at our electric.
So I've increased it since the last time we looked at it.
Okay.
And I can go ahead and just start there since.
It's getting
you went too far.
stupid. I mean, it is really bad.
It was a substantial rate increase. We received some information last week, I guess, end of last week. So we've adjusted that number up some. The rate, I believe it changes January 2023.
Yep.
So I kind of plugged that rate into, our hours usage for.
And hopefully we'll have the rate in the next, by mid-October, something like that. It's maybe November.
but well, you're not looking for a bit, lot of good news from that, are you?
No, it's gonna be bad.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Looks like-
looking at the market,
Yeah,
and what what I see in the market, what the consultants see in the market, it's all for next year is substantial.
And that's an aggregation, we aggregate through that consultant.
Yeah.
But a big part of ours is liquefied natural gas, and
Yeah,
it's
so the natural gas is,
it's a big demand worldwide. So it's
Worldwide.
being dipped, and we're not producing any for some reason only Brandon knows.
that's right.
And so we did, just based on some estimates that were provided by P3, we increased that $300,000 from last year. So-
And that, that's probably okay.
And there was a sheet that went out, I guess it was sent out last week, and that was the number I was using.
Yeah,
I have it somewhere in my stack
right,
here.
yeah, I got that email.
Yeah, and like you said, of course, if it changes,
Yeah.
so it's kind of where we bumped that up, so that's, of course, the increase there.
And so maybe let's hope that that's better, a little, 5 to 10% better than what, because we just don't know right now. So,
And
I
then
think
that-
that's prudent.
Okay, and that line item, of course, also, electricity being the largest piece there,
Yeah,
but
right.
water, sewer, gas is also in that line item, so, just to let you know.
And
what's-
this maybe for a different discussion and after budget, but we really need to go back and get with our, TJ and all the guys we got to help us see if what we need to do for more conservation.
And I was, I would have said that, Judge, but I had crackers in my mouth, so I'm glad you said
Okay.
that instead. So, I would definitely like, to have a visit with TJ and see how much control we do have over the ability to help in that area.
Yeah.
Other services and charges,
So just to go back through, yes, other services and charges, that is, it's a very vague line item, but it includes a lot of things a lot of it's contract-based, but, sorry, remind me, one piece of it, it's just historically, we've always, put some in there, and then as things come up, that's a place that a lot of things get plugged during the year that come up unexpectedly. So when we looked at historically what we've budgeted versus what we've actually ended up spending, that's why we bumped it up to the 135 for next year.
so you're projected to spend $150,000 out of there this year?
Yes, and a lot of these things, they're not consistent from year to year, so, you have, I'm trying to think. Oh, okay, yeah.
A big thing on that is JBI does the Title 4E legal and CWS, and the legal grant amount increased significantly the last year or so about the amount we received. So the amount we're paying JBI is a lot more. And then we also had paid JBI for staff this year. So just some big grant items that we're paying them. A percentage of that grant award comes from this line. If that makes sense.
So that
You just threw a bunch of acronyms at
I know.
me that,
Yes.
say it again?
So we use.
JBI is.
Je-
We
Yeah.
use a company, so we have Title 4E grants.
And that
There's a lot of,
is,
Title 4E is for children that are Title
Children,
4E eligible.
okay.
We get money to reimburse us for, we have specific employees in the DA's office that work on those
Right.
cases. So we can claim all of those and get reimbursed. There's also, ad litem, and then just, there's also a portion that is the Child Welfare Board expenses, so where they're buying clothing and Christmas gifts and things. So we pay.
is that the clothing and Christmas gift line?
Well, that comes out of CPS board, but we're able to ask for
That
reimbursement.
used to be in a line. I mean, wasn't there a
In-
line for that?
Yes, it's in a different fund
Oh,
that they
okay.
use. So, the way that Title 4E has to work is there's a company that comes up and, helps submit those reports. And so we have found that, we could claim a lot more than we had in the past. We found positions that were being utilized for that weren't being claimed. So as that grows, we pay a percentage of the money we're requesting to this company to maintain this program. So that was.
We do that in-house?
Right now, no. It's somebody but it's something that, if we had, it would take additional probably staff to take care of that, but, Those things are always on our mind. If we can do
What-
it,
How
I
much
guarantee
do
you
we
we're doing
pay?
it.
How much do we pay JBI? Do you
It's a
write that-
percentage of the it's a percentage of what
the
we're requesting.
reimbursement? Yeah.
Haley can pull that up. But again, that line item, you know, said, it's just, as things come up in the year and we say, hey, that's another service and charge, so, it'll, it'll vary from year to year. And Haley will get that, and we'll
No
just
worries.
kind of keep going through. So professional services line, another one of those that, you know, can vary from year to year, but the increase there is based on our Water Smart grant. And so that is the piece that we pay to the engineers for the Water Smart program. Liability insurance, that is just that is based on our policy rates that
But
you
that would
have
be,
reviewed
that's gonna
throughout
be my
this year.
question. Who is is that with TAC liability?
Yes.
Okay. And we have historically bid that out over and found that they are always going to be the lowest, or have we bid it in a while? Or do we need to?
So we tried to go, one year out into the, is there just one, or there's just one, there's one carrier, one other carrier.
I was thinking there was a company up at Denton that, insurance.
So, and it's, I can't remember if it was like Allstate or Farmers or, but there's only one other government insurer. Isn't that correct?
For all lines,
Yeah, for all lines.
For liability.
there's several that will quote.
Yeah, but it was just, it
Oh,
wasn't even close.
So where they make the difference up, TAC,
It's pool, it's
their,
a
their workers' comp rates
Yeah.
are crazy low. And that's where everybody else can compete somewhat in the other lines, but you can't even come close on workers' comp.
When's the last time we ever asked for quotes or bids?
When was that?
About 4 years ago?
4 or 5 years ago,
But I would
something
have
like that.
guessed too.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe, yeah, that's about right. 4, 5, 6 years ago.
I mean, obviously we leave it in there, but maybe it's something we think about. If it's been 5 years ago. Those
I think
players-
that
those
if
players
there
come-
were-
They come in and out of the market.
So, right, and I think if they had the ability to compete, they'd be knocking on our door. I mean,
Well, they were up there at the.
So I
Is
do
that a-
know this recently, as 2 or 3 years ago, Bell County was still not under the TAC umbrella. They were with another carrier. And when Judge Blackburn came in, he opened it back up, allowed it, and TAC walked away with it.
Walked
Oh,
away
yeah,
with it.
really interesting.
Yeah, and that's probably true. I'm just a firm believer in opening it up to keep everybody.
Just check, just check.
Checking on you, just checking on you.
And so, and what was the percentage for JBI? That we pay? Okay, you were asking for JBI for the Title IV grant, it's 21.5% is the admin portion that they add on for that. Okay, so utilities, we touched on that. Tax appraisal services, you know, they have their preliminary budget that has been sent out. That's our estimated cost for next year. You know, but I know that budget will be finalized. Usually it decreases from what they originally proposed. Autopsies and body bags, it's, you know, that there's fluctuations there that are really hard to predict. Sometimes it's, but just based on history, we feel, and looking at what we're gonna spend this year and comparing that to the last few years, we feel like we need to move that up to $500,000.
Didn't we just amend the budget?
We did. And then contingencies. So last year we had 1.25 million, and then this year, you know, we had just said, hey, with some concern with inflation and things like that, we went ahead and brought it up to 1.5 million.
And what do we,
And we've only spent 351,000 so far?
No, so we actually we don't charge any expenditures to
Okay.
that line. So you'll see there,
I used to keep like, I mean, I would keep daily track of that contingency.
oh yeah, we can show you
balance.
exactly what it's been spent for every day.
What,
We
so
do-
what's our contingency balance right now?
So, just since budget amendments on Tuesday, Haley will pull that, that
So
was
when
just
I
the
first came in,
balance.
Jim, when I first came into office, and Scott did too, somebody had the bright idea of putting everything in contingency,
Everything?
everything.
You mean like charging, they were
Yeah.
charging things to it?
Yeah, uh-huh.
So we do not, you will not see one actual expense in that line.
Uh-huh.
So you'll see there that the amended budget at this time, was $351,000.
I might have been here, but it wasn't. my idea.
Currently the balance is $220,000.
Left?
Yes, and so what we did at the time, we projected that we would be moving all of that out,
Okay.
for some other
We
reason.
move it into the line item and then spend it out of the line item.
Correct.
So we can
Yes.
track it.
Yes,
Yeah.
there would be no way, I mean, your financial, if you were just reporting things as miscellaneous expenditures, your financial statements would not really
I
be
mean,
very
yeah, you would just-
transparent, so.
That would, wow.
So yes, it is a line item that nothing would ever be charged there, and you have complete control over that. You were saying you monitor it,
I used to, not anymore, because we do so much better job of budgeting
Mm-hmm.
that I'm very confident, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'll glance at it every once in a while now. So,
and I think too, a lot of things come up in the year where it's like, we just had a project come up or an idea. It's not exactly an emergency, but we want to get this done now, and we've been doing that a lot, and it's just something I think we should be really watchful of, that we should really use that in case of a real, we have to have this done, it's an emergency, or whatever that may be. But like you said, I think the court's done a really good job of monitoring that and limiting the use. So. And it just, having that there just eliminates all these little pockets of money here and there that are hard to control, so. And so we increased that to 1.5, and we talked about that day, that was, I think, about roughly 3% of our operating budget. So that seemed to me that's, looking at what we use out of that each year, to me, that seemed reasonable. Okay,
I mean,
so just want to circle back there. Health Services, Department 4310. And again, you know, each of these departments, we had looked at, but just, again, want to revisit. I believe, I'm so sorry. So there was the increase for the public health district, which that was based on the contract, and there was a lot of discussion there, but you approved that amount, I think it was last month. And that is our last year of that contract, so you'll be revisiting that this year. Indigent healthcare, just based on historical trends, and we thought that this was a very reasonable and realistic estimate, bringing that to 2.75. If you remember last year, we decreased that line item substantially.
we did.
$1 million. And I thought that was, I don't know, when you look at the projection, we're gonna be right there. And so I think that was a
That's
good choice
what we're working
last year.
towards.
Yes. But, you know, Heather and I have talked, you know, as that line grows, I think that's a reflection of the work they're doing and getting clients on board. So, I guess sometimes an increase there is not always bad. And then Family Health Center, Family Medical Center, I know they have changed their name recently, the line item still says Family Healthcare. They have an increase that they're requesting. I don't think it was very much above that, but Dr. Griggs has been out some, and so I've been trying to orchestrate with him getting to come in or to speak with y'all. So hopefully we can grab him next week.
Didn't he send us something,
He may,
a request?
sometimes things will come to y'all that I don't always see, so y'all just let me know. But again, just wanting him to come in or to at least speak with you through Zoom to explain his request. So that's just one. We have Orange because we just need to come back and make sure that that we have an accurate number there. Our next, just going down increases, we have Road and Bridge 2 down. Commissioner Miller, I know she is working on maybe making some adjustments there. So we can wait and come back if that's, you know, something that,
Yeah.
that we're not
let's
gonna need to
work
do
over
today.
You and I could work over the weekend. Okay. I mean, I'm not gonna make you work the weekend.
It's, these days, it's just a normal work day.
Everything's on clearance today, so.
Okay.
But then move into maintenance of buildings, that's Department 0110. So, and again, TJ, had discussed these, but they had an increase in supplies, an increase in motor vehicle operating, of course, repair and maintenance, and janitorial services based on a contract. So, you know, he talked about that they are budgeting more in repair and maintenance instead of looking at big projects, but tackling the things that come up, increasing the amount for just things that come up unexpected, plumbing issues, electrical issues, HVAC issues, whatever they may be. So, and, you know, and as our buildings increase, that's just, of course, just, I guess, par for the course that his department is needed more and more, and those costs will increase.
What has been spent out of repair and maintenance right now, and what's your projection for end of year?
So they've already done budget amendments.
Okay.
As of these numbers were as of June 30th.
That's at 735?
That's the revised budget. So they started with 577. We've already revised the budget to 735. He had spent 579, but we're projecting, like, he's going to be spending 735.
Okay, okay.
And that revised budget has already changed since then, to 761, but right now he's only sitting on an available budget of 47,000. So again, as those needs come up, it's hard, I know, for them to know exactly what those may be, but just increased cost every year there. We just want to get the budget where it's sufficient. Okay, if there's no thoughts, we'll just keep moving. The jail, that's Department 2410. So increase in supplies, you know, they had said that they've already seen, all of the cost of their supplies increasing. You know, we had some that said, there's inflation coming. This is what they are seeing right now.
Can you make it a little bit bigger,
Yes, sorry.
please?
So that's when we felt like, you know, when you look at, I know David's, you know, has mentioned, like, even just the cost of a box of gloves or something like that, the cost, you know, and they're just seeing that currently. So that's the increase there. Furniture and equipment, so that was radios, yes, yes. Fuel, again, a reoccurring topic. And then lastly, food services. And that is, again, based on the contract and the contractual increase. They also, just to note, they made changes. Like Commissioner Smith has mentioned, looking at what's not spent and what we think could be brought down. And so the sheriff's office did work to decrease several line items in each department throughout their departments, to try to bring that more in line. And I know I keep mentioning motor vehicle operating, and it's something we're going to continue to keep an eye on and track and monitor that more closely. So, right. The sheriff's office is Department 2200. So again, cost of supplies, furniture and equipment. That one, I'll remind myself. It was for office furniture, so to replace chairs that have been broken, the RAP system, and then to outfit their patrol units with AEDs, or a portion of them. Motor vehicle operating, the cellular and radio service is for an additional, the increase there, additional hotspot. And then the dispatch, centralized dispatch service, that's a contract that we have with the city. So that is, again, a contractual increase. It is, that increase is included in the contract. And that contract is based on salaries that they're paying. So, you know, I know that that's probably accommodating if they give a cost of living adjustment or increase in their benefits, so.
So they do all the dispatching for us? We don't have any SOs over in dispatch?
So it's the 911 center.
Civilians, right?
Yes, I know, they could speak on more details on that, but, on how that works.
Ben would know, so I'll shake his head yes. So.
Okay, and then professional development, so they have requested for an increase there. And that is, again, just for some specific, very specific training they want to include, and then just for their general training that all of their employees receive. Engineering is Department 0130. And the increase there is for the aerial photography that we do every 2 years. There was some adjustments here and there that he made, but that was the majority of the reason for
So
that.
that's every 2-year thing or something like that?
Yes, yes, sir. Our next department,
So I have
go
an
ahead.
answer about
Yes.
the Waco Family Medicine.
yes,
They're asking for, and Dustin, tell me if I'm wrong, but it looks like they're asking for 783, 112.83 this year, which is about a $24,000 increase.
do you want us to go ahead and plug that in?
I think so. I
Yes.
think it's a good.
I knew they'd sent us some.
It's a good.
And,
Yeah, it's
Fair ask.
Yeah, it's very fair.
And-
It's about 3.2% increase, which is.
and do you feel the need to talk to Dr. Griggs, or are you good with the explanations given? Okay, that'll,
I see him all the time.
okay. He's a busy man, so it's hard to coordinate our court schedules with this.
Are you okay with that, Scott?
Absolutely.
Okay, and so, let's see. And again, just going through the departments with increases, we have it's just something to note, 474th will be our new, it's Department 1460. That will be our new district court. And so, with Judge Coley's assistance, we've kind of created a basic budget, just based on his input and looking at what other courts have spent that would be similar. So again, this is something we will have a new official, but we have just put in our best estimate there. And so just want to show you that is an increase, new department since last year's budget. Let's skip over. Maintenance of, I'm sorry.
No, I just,
474.
we're feeding the number 474.
Maintenance of equipment is Department 0120. So increase in fuel, motor vehicle operating, an increase in repair and maintenance. So that is your repair and maintenance. A big portion of that is just going to be, the cost. That's when they outsource.
Contracted service because it's so expensive down.
Yes, so all the repairs and things that are
Going
on the
out.
vehicles, all of our vehicles. And then the radio tower line item. Trying to remember what was there. There's a new contract related to this, just based on our new tower structures. And so there was an increase needed there.
But that'll go up. When, is there one more I mean, I know my towers still needs to be built. So,
And so these are just the ongoing costs that
Okay.
that department
Yeah.
Incurs for that, so, yes, sir.
Is that the one DPS is gonna?
they're building it.
Where's it going?
Who knows when?
Where's yours going?
At the county
Bridge?
barn.
Okay.
And so DPS is actually, they're gonna put it up.
Okay, so that covers probably about a dozen departments that exceed, in their operating budget, they exceed a $30,000 increase. So we have a list of I think about 15 that in total, they requested an increase of between $1,000 and $30,000. We had gone through some of those. I didn't know, we've looked at them and they're reasonable, so I don't know if you want to go through each of those. An increase here and there. We could keep going.
There's nothing there that you saw that's a red flag you wanna?
You've,
Something that we may give Haley to do over the weekend is historically, where have they, where have they been? Say like the last 5 years, 4 years, something like that.
I think that's what y'all have done, isn't
Have
it?
you, is that somewhere?
That's what they've done.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, on the drive, if you look in the request folder, I believe, is it in process?
I can't read that.
Make it bigger. What do I do with that?
Yeah, on the,
Yeah, right here.
and Commissioner, that'll show you kind of at a glance. And that binder information is on the drive too, so if you like a screen better. But also on the drive, there's a folder that says department request, and there's a folder that says 5-year actuals history. And so you can track that. If you want us to pull out for you and you don't have to go through all that,
I'll look at
just
it.
holler at us.
Yeah, I'll
We
look
don't
at
mind
it.
doing any of that.
Yeah, there's an over-under from the original budget and actuals, and then there's an over-under from 2017, isn't that right, to 20?
That's something we've always,
And
I know we used to look at like the percentage increase. Are these like from 0 all the way up, or do you have like a threshold, these are 5% up increases? Because I know at one time there was a certain percentage,
Yes,
and the
yes.
court pretty much said.
We've done it different ways, and I think these would all be reasonable. I don't have the percentage right in front of me, but they should be in a reasonable level based on or as a percentage of their operating.
Is there any way we can do that, get the
Oh, sure.
percent increase?
Yes.
On the increases?
Yes.
I think what I had asked Francis and Haley about was historically, looking back 3 years, 5 years, how much they actually spent from the budgeted amount.
Oh, yeah.
And if it historically was a significant enough amount, then this year's budget, go back to those individual departments and see if they couldn't pare it down to what was actually spent or closer to the actual amount spent. And I think that's what she's showing us today. And that's what they've done with all these people. That's the reason some of them, those totals have changed.
And so Haley and Heather worked through that and used that 5-year information to get a request. And then is that request reasonable? How does it look compared to 5 years? So we've tried to tackle a lot of those areas.
I like also, like the reports that you all have done over to the side that show like the increases in fuel and things of that nature, because we are coming through a unique season. And so some departments are showing increases. I know mine mostly were fuel and parts and capital. So I think if we see where also the increases are, and it may be consistent like through law enforcement, maintenance of buildings, road and bridge, we may see a continuity of the increases.
Yes.
May I ask a question? Is the number skewed by the departments that are able to certify revenue during the year so that it increases their budget? Because whereas I get interlocal agreements or sell something at auction, put that back into my budget, that obviously increases my budgetary line.
And that's just where, it just depends on how you look at it. So if you're looking at adopted budget, versus, you know, actuals or next year's budget, and a lot of times when we're presenting it to y'all, that's what we want to do, because we want to say, hey, look at the adopted last year. But like you said, the certification of revenue can muddy up the system
I had wondered
sometimes.
how I'd gone over 5 years consistently, and I'm thinking, no.
Yes, yes, and so it's
Actual
just,
wouldn't say that.
yes, and so, you know, we can run it a different way and show
Okay,
that,
so
but,
that is gonna be my angle.
yes. But would we run things consistently for all?
Is this on the drive?
I don't believe it is, but I can put it there.
This was, yeah, we,
It's a handout. so it must
yes,
be.
I handed it out, yeah.
yes. It's just been ever changing since that day too, so, but it was just something good to work from. I wanted to like kind of state too, like, so many of your departments have very, very, very minimal operating budgets. And so when something occurs, like, I'm not, like our office, we have it's $50,000 is our total operating for, you know, 16 people in an office. So when something goes up,
It really, it reflects
it's
here.
hard to accommodate, and so there's some departments that have very, very, very large operating, it just depends on the nature of the office. And so I think just over time, departments, they need increases from time to time, they're reasonable, it's
Well, that's
just,
why I want to see the areas, because we know supplies were hit. You know, paper went up. So we know that there are some areas that departments experienced increasing costs. And so they probably projected those going into next year. So
Yes,
we kind of need to
yes.
look at supplies. We need to look at repair and maintenance. We need to look at fuel, and not ask the department to reduce their budget because they're trying to account for increases.
and that's why I think that when we pulled this, and when we get the proposed budget together in August, we can re-pull this stuff so we can look at it. But we wanted to show you not just departments highest to lowest, but then like you said, what, if you put all line items together, what are the line items specifically? Is it supplies, is it fuel? So that you can really get a really big, you know, big picture idea of what that is. So, so yes, we've tried to.
Because we would
compile
treat
in different
that,
ways.
that different, correct? Like if we saw somebody and they just did like a 2% on all my line items, that's different than someone projecting, I've got an increase in paper, I got an increase in fuel.
Correct. And we tried to keep away completely from that, I can increase everything 2% or something like that. Unless it's something you could really validate. Like, I have this invoice here and this is how much I'm paying for this compared to last year. You know, those things are, we're already seeing it. Let's please accommodate this in the budget, so.
Right.
Oh,
I don't foresee this being a problem, but we haven't talked about our health at all.
We have not. You know, I think, I know usually he comes before
Andy.
we adopt.
yes.
Or speaks to us on Zoom. I think the direction is that we don't need to make any increases
Yeah.
to what we're, you know, that fund looks really good.
Yep.
But yes, definitely we want to, even though I think we feel confident in it, we don't want to look at it.
Can that be on the list for Tuesday?
Yes, definitely.
I don't want to get into it today.
So again, I just wanted to highlight some operating increases and what those look like. But let's go back to the main summary. After we made the adjustments to, I think specifically it was to that countywide road and bridge, you'll see there, we're sitting at 38.4%. We haven't adjusted yet for that. We talked about like roughly 700,000 in those positions that we would use to fund part of the TCDRS increase. So that 700,000 will be in there as well. So that is where we look like as right now. I know that there will be some things thrown in. I know the judge had brought up the magistrate issue yesterday, and so I didn't have any of that. Of course, I know that's kind of been new information, so that's not in here. And there's things that will come up, and there's things that you might want to decrease. But I think this just gives us a really good picture of where we're at right now. If you scroll up like to the,
Excellent day.
this is where I just wanted to scroll down just a hair. So this, again, scenario, the no new revenue rate as of the last update we got. Certified values, deadline is Monday. You know, so deadline Monday.
So, my question about that
Uh-huh.
is if, so, you know, probably gonna go up
Yes.
a little bit.
Yes.
That will lower our, no new revenue rate, correct?
That is correct. And so then your actual like levy that we have included
Yeah,
in
right.
here,
Uh-huh.
it shouldn't be adjusted that much, unless there's some craziness that's, you know, occurred since
Okay.
then as far as protest and, you
Right.
know,
And I think,
adjustments.
from what I understand, things are going the way they're supposed to go. And that, I mean, historically, and that.
I was reading this, so run it by me.
So we'll get our certified revenue on Monday.
Yes.
Is the deadline?
Yes.
Is he confident that he can make that?
Yes.
And is he seeing anything that's out of the normal, not historical?
No, I think, no, we're not.
Okay.
And then, you know, the last update we had was on I think it was on the 18th, July 18th, which I think was, was that Monday? I'm trying to think what day is
Yeah,
it?
that's when,
So
it
it's-
changed.
And so, you know, it's a pretty fresh number. But again, we need that final number. And then the final rates are calculated. They are certified by the tax assessor collector. And then, you know, we can have this locked in rate that is our no new revenue rate that then you can move forward with, on voting on or not voting on, whichever you decide to do. But I just wanted to just kind of here, those kind of brighter blue sections, so you'll see total revenues of right at 125 million. So that is no new revenue levy, but as well as all of our other revenues. And so then below that, you'll see total expenditures. There's two pieces, just because for discussion purposes, we've had them broken out, but you're looking at about 42 million. Sorry, Haley, thank you. So I just wanted to just show you, you know, so that number, those expenditures do exceed your revenues coming in, but we're balancing the budget by using fund balance that's already sitting. And so that's, you know, definition of a balanced budget is not exceeding your current fund balance plus your revenues.
Which we've been doing the last
Yes.
several years.
And that's where I, you know, just wanted to point out, as we try to get that budget closer and closer to
Right.
having less excess, you know, that's something we really want to keep an eye on.
How much excess do you think we've cut so far?
From like requested to where or
Like from unfunded position, how many funded positions have we cut?
Oh,
things
yes.
like that,
Mhm.
I mean, how much excess? I guess you probably won't know that. I mean,
yeah, it's substantial. I know when we start putting those pieces together,
it's
Haley's
important
gonna
for
pull
us to
something.
know and keep track of, in my opinion.
Yes.
What, looks like what we picked up, a little over 2 million in, ending fund balance today with changes.
Yes, that sounds right. Close to it.
Yeah, I'm looking at 53.7 and we came in at 50, almost 51.
So you're saying we cut 2 million out of requests today? Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to know
Over
how
that.
much total
More
we've
than
cut.
that.
I think it'd be interesting how much, I think it's important to know how much total we've cut, yeah, over the last few days, what kind of work was
Well, what
done.
did we have coming in? It was,
I didn't save yesterday's work, unfortunately.
Okay, so this is interesting, and I think it's kind of neat. So when we started here on day one, we were showing expenditures, requested expenditures, all that we had loaded in all requests, of 141.2 million. That did not include any COLA, any position request, any retiree COLA, anything personnel. That was just if you had not changed one position. And so now if you look at, compare it to where we are now, this includes the COLA, this includes the retiree COLA, it includes new personnel, it includes, you know, all the things that we've added throughout the budget, the increase in economic development. So you're comparing it to 142 million as of today. So that's just less than $1 million increase after all the things that you've
That includes a $5
added
million
on.
COLA.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I think it's just
So
a,
take that COLA out. And I think that'll give you a good, I think that'll give you a
For
good
comparison
picture
purposes.
yes,
of what,
142,070.
of operating that we've cut
yes,
and to some extent salaries. I mean, personnel
so 137,
versus
141.
41.
That's 4 million.
So I think that's, I don't know, I think that's progress to be proud of that you've made over the
very-
last few weeks.
Very good progress.
And still looking at no new revenue rate and keeping your fund balance goal. You're above it right now, but. So this is just to kind of highlight that and talking about, you know, that's really good. But also, you know, looking that your expenditures are exceeding your revenues, but you're sitting on fund balance. When you're looking at your fund balance being above your target, that's where I just want to be really cautious of lowering, continuing to lower that rate. If you were looking to lower that rate lower than no new revenue, just because you don't want to get yourself in a bind in future years.
Well, what if you just rounded it off to 37 cents?
Yes,
You know.
so there's, yeah, and there's, you know, things
to
we can
me
look
that-
at like that.
That, I mean, that I wouldn't want to go, I mean, I can say that we cut it below the no new revenue rate. We can all say that we cut it below the no new revenue rate.
What does taking off, what is that, 8782.008782,
Yes,
what does that do to all of those numbers?
so that's what's in there right now.
Do what?
That's the rate that's this is all calculated on.
Right, that's what I'm saying, what if the rate is,
It was just 37 is
what
what.
if it was just 37, what if it was less than 008782?
Yeah, because I think it's tied, we'd still take out $1 million for permanent improvement, so it should still be, the formula should still work. Undo it, if I can redo it. 775333626. Okay, then undo it, redo it, or whatever it's called. So that is about roughly a $2 million drop in levy revenue. And so then you can see down there at the bottom, it puts you at 37%.
Still
Um,
4% over our target.
if I know that that's your,
Honestly, in my mind, I have a target of $50 million fund balance.
okay, so we can back into that to,
I mean, if you wanted to back into that,
Mm-hmm.
so I think $50 million, that's, you know,
I don't wanna get so low, especially
Yeah,
we haven't
yeah.
had the health, insurance conversation. We haven't talked about finalizing capital, we haven't finalized permanent improvement. We may come to that, I don't want.
But that's what you're talking about, is being careful of just backing down to fit a model.
and this is where, you know, our sales tax has become a very large portion of our revenue that we rely on every year. I mean, it's, when you look at what's happened the last 10 years, it's really pretty crazy. So we are hoping that continues to increase, maybe not the rate it has, but, and so when you look at revenues as a total, and we're hoping that all revenues continue to increase, we're gonna rely on that. But then also, again, then your other piece is tax revenue. And so,
But we can always come down. We can't go up, but at any point.
oh, from
we
your
can go down.
proposed.
Right.
Yes, that is correct. So if you're talking about just
When your
proposed.
expenses historically are higher than your revenue, then eventually you're gonna eat that. That's what you gotta be careful about, is eating that, that fund
Fund
balance.
balance up.
So just a healthy balance there, but we do have, quite a bit of fund balance sitting, so you want to use that, and so it's just, finding that perfect.
And I wasn't here when the 33% was agreed upon, I certainly agree with that. But was that 33% when it was agreed upon, was that
50 million
was
is-
that in everybody's mind that would be based on revenue equaling expenses? All
No,
things
so
even.
when you, the
It was always-
definition,
In other words, that 33% was always determined that we were going to.
No, you're
that's your
right,
ending, just your
Commissioner.
ending fund balance. But it's just based on also having a balanced budget, and a balanced budget.
Yeah, but your definition of balanced budget, and mine is different. I know you. what
So
you're saying.
I know exactly what you're saying. So yes, you could say our budget's not balanced and that our revenues don't
Yeah,
meet
in my mind, they're
expenditures.
not.
Yeah,
When the
no,
revenue-
I understand what you're saying, but
But
I'm
you gotta
like
use fund
Commissioner
balance
Smith.
too.
I didn't envision the fund balance being needed to offset expenditures.
Yeah, every
I
year.
thought revenue would always meet expenditures, and then the fund balance would be there for what it's supposed to be there for. But I understand, like Commissioner Jones, but then you make sure that your tax rate allows for that, so that your fund balance doesn't just
Well, it-
skyrocket up.
It's hard to do when part of your revenues are not predictable at all.
Right.
The sales tax coming in, it's just almost
Right.
impossible to get that to where it's an even, true balance.
We had an astronomical sales tax increase that it would be great to think that could happen, but I don't know if that's realistic to think it could happen again, I guess.
Well, and here's the thing too, is that sales tax will be the first thing to go if there is a significant economic downturn. I mean, I think if you go back and look at 2008, you probably saw a downturn. That's what the state did. The state saw a downturn in revenues in 2008. And they cut schools funding because of it and stuff like that. But what would a $50 million ending fund balance? What would that be percentage wise?
How would you back into that to figure that one out?
Well, you just,
I may have to go spend another night at Holiday Inn.
there you go.
I don't know. It's not-
We're just gonna work with our formulas.
That'll do it.
It's not a perfect.
Yeah, 40.
35%.
It's still
I
35.
don't want to use the ending fund balance as a revenue source for expenditures. I want to use the ending fund balance for exactly what it was created for, and that is to have for emergencies for the
Yes.
county for spending in case of circumstances.
And so
I don't
that-
want to use it as a revenue.
And so that's
source.
where then y'all have made the decision to cap that at 30, or over is great too, but 33 is a minimum. And so that's just then how close do we get to that 33 where you're comfortable, but you don't want it to get to 50% or
But
60%.
for the very
Right.
same reasons that
So that's where
Commissioner
you
Jones
have
just
to eat
mentioned,
into
our
it.
sales tax could take a dive. That's why I say the no new revenue and nothing below that, because we don't know what our sales tax are gonna do for the next. So I wouldn't wanna, knowing that we could be facing a pretty good economic downturn, I wouldn't wanna go any lower than,
In the middle of an
Yeah.
economy that's
But you're
doing this on us.
still, but if you were to just lower it that 0.8% or,
0.008,
To 37.
yeah, to 37,
you're still sitting.
you're still far above your,
You're, what was
We had
1%
37.
generally?
Okay,
2 million?
so I guess just zero that out.
2.2 million.
2.2, and we're sitting at 30.
So that put us at 51.8 million, which was 37%.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Which is.
And so the last couple of years, and what would be good to know is what have we estimated that ending fund balance to be at?
Haley's bringing it up.
That's in our little notebook too.
Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. It's in the
Did your homework.
Yes, it's in our little notebook.
It is on
It's a
page
little notebook.
five.
Page something, is it?
Page 5.
5? Page 5.
Which sheet?
So this is, there's a PDF that just, I think it says budget binder
Yeah, she bring it
on
to
on the drive. It should be one of the first things you see when you open the current year. And then Haley has it up on the screen too. So just looking at completed years, so fiscal year '21, we budgeted to end with a fund balance of 33%. We ended with 58%.
Now,
21 and 21 are very, very different years than we have ever seen. And there is a ton of different reasons why. So,
and then Francis, let me ask you this, something that we gotta be conscious of and careful with. A good portion of the fund balance that comes back in every year comes out of the SO budget, does it not? And we just got through readjusting and taking care and moving a lot of that out and putting in other areas, so let's be conscious of that. That we're not gonna have, the whole thought process to me has been getting everybody's budgets closer to what they really are. And we're getting there, so I just wanna not lose sight of the fact we might not see the,
and so this is just, my recommendation then is if you get that rate to a rate you're good with and it's still above 33%, that you don't try to get down to 33%, that you leave it at that, whatever it was, 36 or 37.
I understand what you're saying. If we're trimming the budget to be more to their actual,
Right.
then they're not gonna have that rollover effect on the ending fund
so
balance.
there's not gonna be that. You know, it's a cushion that's gone from that budget, but it's also gone from the overall budget
Right.
that you're in.
And you can see,
And it should
like
be.
she has there, you can see highlighted before 2020, 2018 and 2019, we had budgeted both years to come to 31%. So we hadn't quite made it up to that 33% yet. But then you can see we came in at 39 and 43. So.
That's
Well,
2017,
historically for the last, since 2017, to me, that we've come in at a little over 14.5% higher than what we budgeted. Average
Meeting the fund balance.
in the fund balance, about 14.5%.
And so again, that's, do revenues come in a little more than we think? Are we under budget? And so all those things roll together then to adjust that rate. So like I said, just being cautious because we are trying to,
To me, if you go to 37 cents even, you're still way,
what percentage was it, like 37?
37%.
37.
You know, our,
That's more than we've ever budgeted over.
That's true.
That's more than we've ever budgeted
But
over.
again, look at what we've done this year, it's gonna change the outlook next year. It's
But
gonna-
if, so let's say everything is exactly the way it happens. All these positions, filled, unfilled, expenses are right on the money or right on the, so like, let's look at it. I think the important part to look is actually how much is spent throughout the, I mean, even, like full bore, we do this right to the penny, you're still over your target.
I would feel comfortable in that if I knew what sales tax were gonna do.
Yeah.
Again, there's a
Yeah.
lot.
And here's another thing too about sales tax. Sales tax is gonna be higher because prices are higher.
Well,
Well, people spend
we're
less.
spending though.
And when we estimate sales tax for the upcoming year, it's just, we don't want to, we want to be conservative. And so what we do is really look at what do we project to collect this year? Look at the trend in the last few years and just, if it's continuously increased slightly, we increase it slightly. We don't go overboard and estimate, some pie in the sky idea. So we're very conservative there because we don't want to get stuck if it doesn't work out how we want. So just if that eases your feelings at all, but.
So,
I had a question.
2.6
What do we do with economic development? I mean, I had a good time at the Smile for Swing.
Oh, yes, that's
I
right.
missed the-
We can pull that department up and talk through that real quick with you if you like.
And the only reason that comes to mind, if we're talking about activity that helps to generate more income in the county, that's one project that does, because,
Yes.
you know, it snowballs to jobs and
Definitely.
to spending and to the sales tax. I just wasn't sure what we did, because,
So-
on my field trip.
So Chris Collins spoke on, you know, all the pieces, and so what the consensus was that we increase the contribution that's committed for the WEMDEC Economic Development Fund by 500,000. So we'll be transferring over 3.75 million, opposed to, or in contrast to 3.25.
And you already have that accounted in that general fund spreadsheet?
That is correct. And then, you know, we also give, there's funding that goes to the chamber. And they had asked for a revision mid-year, so their request mirrored that amount that was revised to during the middle of the year.
Okay.
Can I say
More
something?
nonprofits coming in?
And then, I'm sorry, and then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Look, I think the judge said something.
Yeah, I've been trying to say something for a while.
Sorry.
He must have been on mute.
Once I started.
No, I haven't been on mute. I've been trying to, anyhow. You know, the county government obviously is different from private business, but we all have, whether it be private business or the county, we have stakeholders, and those would be the taxpayers in our group. So any asset that we've got belongs to the taxpayer. And if we're, you know, we have a goal, we set, Commissioner Smith asked, you know, how we came up with the 33, and it was because we didn't have anything before. And the commissioners' courts at the time were making some decisions based off of, I'm not sure what, but probably some emotion and drama pertaining to taxpayer burden. And so we ended up spending into our cash position, and we had a $9 million negative budget. And so since then, we decided that we develop a policy, and we moved into it slowly over 3 years at least, maybe a little longer, to get to 33%. And then, and a lot to do with COVID years and those kind of things, we didn't spend as much money as we had, and there was probably a little bit over budgeting that we, you know, weren't watching as close as we are now. And that created, you know, a lot of excess funding. So I think that the taxpayers can have confidence that we don't waste that money just because it's sitting over here in our checking account. And we actually use that money and paid forward on expenses so we could get that tax rate down to really help the folks that got shocked by the additional values that came on. And so I don't think being over the 33% is a bad thing, because it's an asset of the taxpayers, and we can always use it to lower the burden for the years to come. And I like the fact that we set a goal early on, at least a consensus. No new revenue rate on one side, and don't go below don't go below the 33% unassigned fund balance to our expenses. And we've met those goals. And I think that, with the exception of a few little minor modifications that might happen between now and the end of the week, we're pretty much there. So I'm good with ending up just like we said we were going to do when we started.
I can live with whatever we decide. It wouldn't bother me if we took even a portion of that amount over 37 and reduced it, or that no new revenue rate, a portion of that, even if it wasn't the entire .008,782, if it was, you know, even half of that or something, to see what it would look like.
375 is, you know, 37.5 is, you're still at 52.8.
What was the current rate when we started? I want to see what was the savings with us starting with the no new revenue rate, but we were actually at our current rate. What did we start, what was our savings starting out? since we didn't start with the current rate, the difference in the current rate and the no new revenue rate is what I'm asking for.
Okay.
What was that savings? Because we started out trying, saving, and I don't want it to, I don't want it to get lost that we started out.
Point 425.
So if you, I'm looking there, that middle column, current rate 0.425. And so if you were, again, just based on what the values are at this moment in time, if we were to plug that in, you would have $11.8 million increase in tax revenue total, more than we did last year. So then on the left column, we were looking at that preliminary no new revenue rate. It's just 1.2 million more. And so, almost, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's very, almost
What
equal.
Commissioner said, what does .375 look like? What does that do?
Either way, though, is the point. I mean, how much money are we really talking about when we're getting into that?
Yeah, I can't go lower than the no new revenue rate, not today, because we got too much more to still discuss.
And I think the thing just to, to rush your mind is that, when you propose the rate next week, if you want to just propose the no new revenue rate, completely up to you.
And
You
we
can
can
bring
still,
that down.
right, and I'm.
And make sure there's nothing that
yeah.
pops up, a need that arises all of a sudden.
So in the proposed, I would not agree to anything other than the no new revenue, knowing we can still.
We can go down as we finalize more things.
And Haley plugged in like 0.375, you had just asked, so total levy increase of 371,000. Again, I think when you're looking at those large numbers, it's almost, almost zero, I guess, in a way. It's very, very, very
It's a
minimal.
mindset as much as anything. That's right, put the other back in, I mean, that's okay, it was just an idea, but, I guess, have we actually reached a consensus, Judge, on the amount of money we're going to fund into economic development? Was that
I
was
think
that
we're waiting on Waco still. too.
waiting on Waco to see what they're gonna do? I was thinking there was some caveat there.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they're gonna get there, but, I don't have it confirmed yet.
Yes.
It's a 3.75 what they requested.
So it's a,
We kind of
Instead of the-
penciled in.
yeah, it's a $500,000 increase.
From both entities.
Right, from both entities.
Yeah. when
So
they-
we've never increased it,
Last year, we,
250,000.
Last year we did.
Did we do
Yeah.
500,000 last year?
yeah, it's the same as last year, same increase.
And so like I know you had asked since you were out yesterday that we did, it is penciled in there. There was kind of a consensus that if the city of Waco was on board, then that's something you wanted to consider. So that's plugged in there and then we can adjust it if needed.
Okay. And I'm trying to think back, was there something else we were trying to get a consensus from someone else on something, or was that it? Was it just WIMDAC?
There was some.
Board of
just to
Judges,
get-
Sports, sports
the
commission.
board, no, the Board of Judges were gonna look at coming back to, about our recommendation to use, COLA to equalize, salaries of both, jailers.
That's what it was, Judge. Yes, sir. Thank you.
And there's a short list of things that like that, some capital outlay things we need to go back to, the health plan. So there are items that, definitely, this is not an end-all conversation today by any means. So.
So I just want to throw these percentages out here and y'all can, at the no new revenue rate, that's an 11% decrease in our tax rate.
From last year.
From last year.
Or this year.
And I think the average, it's actually 10.87%. And so, and then if you did 375, that percentage is 11.76%. The average, I think the average residence rose 20%.
I believe so.
So we're only cutting the average resident about half.
then, well, I was gonna say, new
Yeah, and-
properties in there, you know, like,
Well, there's new property in there, and that's what, you know, you can't. And things,
it's hard
so-
to,
But if you're just
many.
looking at averages, so let's take, for example, a home in, a home that, so, $200,000 home, which is pretty close to what our, multiply that, you divide that by 100. So you, and then you multiply it by 0.425. So last year they paid, so divide by 100,
At 850.
multiply by 0.425, that's $850. So let's say that residence went up in value to 240,000. Divide that by 100, multiply it by 3.78782.
909.
What was calculated?
909.
909.
So it went up.
So they're paying,
$59 more.
$59 more per year.
And I
And that's gonna
guess,
be on, but that's on it's hard to throw that out there and say, this is everybody, because it's not.
Well, that's a lot of people.
and on
So
that
it's
note,
an
that's
average.
why,
People that I looked at this year paid less this past year than they did before. So it depends on where you're at, and that it's
I
hard.
don't hear that at
It's hard to,
all.
well, I pulled them up and looked at them because I had people calling, screaming at me, and I went and pulled what they've actually paid. And most of them are paying less than they did 5 years ago. Everybody wants to pay less, and I get that. I'm there too. But when we're talking about, if you're gonna do that, you want it to mean something. You don't wanna throw, anyway, I'm just saying, it's hard to take that and look and say, well, this is everybody, because it's not.
and I can tell you this, when we talk about property taxes, it affects everyone. Whether your home is appraised at $50,000 or your home is appraised at $500,000, whether you own your home or whether you rent your home. So that's why I wanted to see going into the process how it would look at the no new revenue rate, because everyone's paying, especially in this time of inflation. You know, it may not seem like a lot to some people to get a tax bill for $750, but for some people, that's a tight bill to get when you've been paying $100 or $200 for your property taxes. So I understand the pain that they're having, and that's why instead of the current rate, I said I agreed to go into it at the no new revenue rate. I'm not sure where we're going to end, but I do know we have a lot of unfinished business and some loose ends to tie up.
And I'm with you. I'm just saying that going in, we need to set it at the no new revenue rate. If we can come down, great. We also need to keep in mind that we gotta be careful because we don't know what the economy's gonna do. And then we turn around and make moves this year and then we gotta turn around and raise it up a little bit next year because I don't wanna get into that.
No, you don't want to raise taxes.
I would rather play it, if we could hit the no new revenue rate every year, I think we're doing
think you're doing a great
justice.
job.
Because if we keep trying to squeeze, and we're gonna have to turn around somewhere down the road and go, you know what, we did too much last year and now we gotta get a little bit of it back. I don't wanna go there.
Because they won't remember the lowering, they
No.
just remember the increase.
That's right, then the better, I feel like we've done a better job this year, and so we're not gonna have that excess more than likely, like we have seen, and, if the economy does adjust some down, then, I think we're doing a good job. We've met our commitment. I don't feel that have wasted anything. And like I say, any fund balance we have belongs to the taxpayers, and it'll be used for their benefit.
And didn't we go below the no new revenue the last 2 years?
Yeah.
And the only reason I'm reluctant this year is just because of the economy. The last 2 years, it was blowing and going, and we knew, you know, residential construction's out was crazy, commercial's crazy. So you feel more comfortable. And for me, and it's just me, guys, I'm just a little leery that we don't know what the economy's gonna do. And we just
Real volatile.
wanna play it
And
as safe
I
as possible.
don't disagree with anything that's said, and if the economy went south on us, I think what we've got to remember too, and it's not what you want to do, but we're sitting on a $68 million cushion. Isn't that right?
Well, after this,
53 million.
One percentage point, well, we said 1% raises $2 million, doesn't it?
Well, look at what she's got there. She's got 50, I think it's 50.
So
But it's on-
1% does not equate to $2 million, it equates to.
I'm
We got a
sorry.
$7.6 million cushion between, at no new revenue. Yeah, at no new
Well, I mean, we
revenue.
have a $50 million cushion if worse came to worse and the sky fell. Which we
And you
all
know-
end up getting out of Dodge.
Well, I guess you could I mean, so let's say
Spend
we
that.
had,
Reserve. You don't want to do that.
No,
So
you
you
don't.
ready?
I'm just saying, but you're sitting on it.
Now, Will's right. It's the $7 million what you're sitting on, because if you drop below that 33, then, and not raise taxes, just to the fact of not raising taxes,
well,
you're violating the policy that you set.
what would it look like if we, and so we saw probably and I don't know if you can compare it or not, but in spring of 2020, April, May, June 2020, we saw, you know, a significant economic problem, disaster, slowdown, whatever you want to, you know, due to the pandemic. And our sales tax stayed the same or went up a little bit.
It did.
I'm
Thought
done.
it was wrong. And I think you made a comment, like, use the term that he's used, if the sky falls, or, you know, and I think it goes back to.
That's why I said that. That's
Yeah.
the sky. I mean, literally, we thought the sky was falling.
Yes.
It felt like the sky
But,
was
you know,
falling.
but again, that's the point of this fund balance policy, 33% is for a time, is to have comfort in a time like that. So, anyway, just to.
It gives me comfort for a time that we don't even know what it looks like. I mean, in other words, it's not planned. It's something that we haven't even thought about.
Catastrophic, yep.
And I'm glad, you know, everything kept tracking along, but if it hadn't, you know, y'all set that policy and we were sitting on funds that could have helped us out in a, you know, a time of.
What a prior court did is ignored that and took us all the way down to zero.
17%. Yeah.
Yeah, so if we would have had to sell bonds, our bond rate would have been so high that we couldn't afford it. The tax interest rate.
Yeah. I don't know that they would have sold it to us, Scott.
Yeah, well, that's why we didn't ask either, because we didn't want our bond. We did not want to know what our bond rating was, and I don't ever want to be in that kind of shape again. But you know, folks, I tell you, I can't believe we're arguing about no new revenue, trying to get a few pennies below that when nobody would really notice. And we're doing our job. We're doing exactly what we planned on doing. And so, you know, I think we're spending a whole lot of time with something that's not going to make that much difference. If there's a little bit more money in the general fund because we didn't go below the no new revenue rate, it still belongs to the taxpayers. So I'm not at all interested in, I think I'm proud of how the court has hung in there and really done a great job, and every one of you. But, you know, getting to where our goal is, no new revenue rate, and we're there.
Judge,
In the last 2 years, it was a much easier call to say, let's drop a penny or two below it, because we knew the economy was blowing and going, and that's the only thing that makes me reluctant this year is, I don't know that we can say that. 6
and
months from
that's
now.
where I'd like to interject and say something if I may.
Yes, sir.
We're not through with contract price increases. I don't know where we're going. I don't have hard data, but we've had some requests for double-digit increases. And we've got quite a few contracts out there. And I don't know what that impact's going to be to the overall, but I felt it was my place to bring that up, just part of this discussion that you're having right now.
You talking about renegotiating current contracts or new contracts that we'll enter into?
Either.
Yeah, it's both.
I almost feel like if we renegotiate contracts, we may end up in better shape than if we go back out, but that's up to y'all. I mean, we'll come to it as we come to each contract. But you know, the food service that we allowed an increase on earlier this year, I think we only carried that food through September 30. So we haven't really discussed what's going to happen for 23. So I want to bring it up for your thoughts and considerations in this discussion that you're having right now.
So, you know, there may be some things that increase that we know before we adopt at the end of August, but like he said, there may be things that come up after we adopt the budget. I think if we're not sure on those, that we should, you know, either we know that we have the contingency amount sitting of $1.5 million to cover the increases, if those should occur. If the thought is 1.5 million is just not enough based on all these increases that we keep seeing, you know, maybe we need to bump that up some. So thank you, Ken, for bringing that up.
Yes,
But you know,
I
contracts aren't always perfectly on our fiscal year. It's just how it works. And so there are some times that we have unexpected increases, especially this year. So.
And this is a whole different situation than we've had for many, many years. I know that we like to keep our costs down and all that kind of stuff, but we also know by CPI and what we discussed earlier in these discussions that everything's gone up, and I don't think we've seen the end of it. So again, I just wanted to share.
Thank you, Ken.
Well, hopefully with a stabilization in the gas prices and things like that, you know, we'll see a leveling out. But, you know, I mean.
We need to see that for sure. I mean, this is, again, Ken, that's a good point. We just need to expect some unexpected expenses this year that are gonna be an increase in these contracts. It's just,
And we increased the contingency, you know, with that thought in mind. You know, that's why we were increasing it for this year.
How many dollars worth of contracts are out there right now that they'll have to be renegotiated?
I don't think that we can put a number on it, because even if it wasn't time or a consideration to be negotiated, people are going to be coming to us. And
I think that's where we've got to make a decision as a court, whether or not we're going to allow that to happen, Ken, or we're going to hold people's feet to the fire on what they contracted with us for. You know, in my mind, what they're saying is we have a X percent profit, and because it's costing us more money, we're only going to make this much. But what we want y'all to do is pay us more so we can still make as much as we did.
but the gamble there, Jim, and I agree with
Is
you.
when you renegotiate,
And they say,
they
well,
gouge you.
go out for bid, because we're still confident we're gonna be the lower bid at this higher price. And now
Yeah, that's the gamble. You're right, the gamble. It just, well, I won't say it irks me, but it bothers me when people come back after you've signed an agreement with them.
it depends
It's been
on how many
happening for-
vendors in that arena too.
Right, There's lots of one single source things like that.
that you don't have a choice, but
Uh-huh.
those that there are choices. Anyhow, that's
And so
another,
that, you know,
that's
again,
another
that's part
chapter
of-
we can talk about.
That's another, that's something that we, in maybe next year that we look at is, you know, I thought we were trying to get all these contracts into the October to September.
Where we could budget more appropriately.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just share that it's rather difficult to do that when there's only one or two of us that's putting out all the bids. We have them spread out through the
Good point, Ken.
year
Yeah.
just to handle the workload.
That's a good point, Ken. It'd overwhelm you if it was all at once.
That's right.
Yep. All right, where are we?
So I think we're at a good point this week. I know we know your feelings on things. and-
Wait, Judge, I'm sorry, Judge, go ahead.
You said, where are we? I said, I'm still sitting right here. I can see y'all are sitting right there, so.
We haven't moved,
We hadn't
Judge.
had a break.
We haven't had a break, Judge. You haven't called for a break.
Well, so that's a good point. Do we want to break for a break? Do we want to break for lunch, or do we want to break until next week?
What would we do if we
Could I-
came back?
Let's hear what, yeah.
Yeah,
what was-
I think it'd
what
be
was
best
Francis
just to
like?
come back on Tuesday. We know your feeling on things. We know what direction you're looking at, like the tax rate is concerned. That helps us, give us some insight on where we're going with this. But you know, I think coming back Tuesday allows us some time just to kind of, these things that we throw out, numbers here and there, big bulky numbers, COLA and all that. It allows us to just kind of absorb that in and really study it and make sure that we've hit everything we need to. So then I think we're where we need to be right now. I guess I'm being long-winded about it. I think we're where we need to be to go into Tuesday and really look at, okay, what do we want? Is this what we want in the proposed budget? So if there's some of the stuff that makes you leery of putting it in the proposed budget, those are the things we need to talk about on Tuesday.
Okay.
So the plan is meet on Tuesday. If y'all need Wednesday, we can recess until Wednesday.
When could we get some of the info that we've asked about?
That's what we
Maybe-
should do on Tuesday.
It would like total vehicle fleet
Yes,
numbers.
yes.
Wait until Tuesday to get those?
Yeah, I mean, that just takes time to.
Pull those,
Yeah,
okay.
to get kind of what y'all are wanting. So Tuesday should be when we come back to these things. And then work through that. And then my plan would be that on Thursday, when we come in here, we're happy where we ended our discussion on Tuesday or Wednesday, that we can just come in here. Any final thoughts? You can vote on the proposed rate.
Is that when that happens, next Thursday?
Correct.
Okay.
Of course, if we need to continue to talk on Thursday, then that is A-okay too.
Public hearing is Tuesday, or when is the
We-
public hearing?
We
So-
don't have to have.
Well,
so
we have
if
to have the
you-
one for the,
We have to have the one
Budget?
for the budget.
So, yes, if you propose the no new revenue rate or lower, you do not have to have a public hearing on the tax rate. You can, but you don't,
just on the budget.
Just on the budget, and that is the day, August the 20, sorry, it's the day we're adopting the budget and the tax rate. My brain is, August the 30th, so we have a hearing on the budget that day, and then,
And then nothing since we're at the no new revenue rate.
that is correct. You know, we have, every agenda, there is an item for public comment. So, you know, that also always gives the public, between now and then, if they ever, you know, want to come in and speak, they always have that ability. But law-wise, statute-wise, no, we don't have a hearing on the tax rate.
And so when Tuesday we come back, you're gonna have the breakdown on the personnel request that come to that $373,000 figure. It might be on there now.
Yeah, it's the one that Anna had pulled up yesterday.
Okay, I mean, and so it's up to date with what we did through yesterday?
Yes, yes.
Okay, just to throw it out there, because that's, what is that figure representing on the retirement? How much percentage is that paying into retirement?
That is giving the retirees a 4.5% COLA.
And, okay, and how much are we saying we're gonna Or did we say we're gonna pay a lump sum and also our percentage?
So there was a lot of discussion, we don't have anything there for lump sum.
Payment in there.
That is if you paid it out, adjusting the rate for 15 years, that would be next year's
We're
amount.
just paying the straight percentage?
And the other thing is that there's amount gonna be moved from some of the positions that are unfilled, about 700,000 that we still need to account for there, so
Okay.
that number will actually look better when we meet again.
Only thing on there, and this is just a little note, we did this before when we told departments that, remember they hadn't budgeted people up to their budgeted max. And so we took that cushion away, and then they all came back and asked for additional money with the, and asked for their slots back and said, well, you took my position or you took my money. And I think we're gonna see a firestorm if we do that again.
So I think what you're getting at, there was one year, that first year, that we made a turn. The budget went to whatever the actual expenditure was in the past year. We are not, I don't think anything like that is being, as far as I know,
You say you
somebody.
put a plate, you're just keeping the spot, but you're taking the full salary out of that budget.
Yes, because we don't anticipate them filling those.
That's right, and that's what I'm saying. I think we're gonna see a firestorm.
And that's where, if they are able to fill all of those, I think then y'all are prepared to,
When you go back into that money and give it back to them.
We will fund the position. If the court, if they come back and say, I do need to fill this position, even after we've adopted the budget, Francis, I believe we'll be able to fill that spot if the court agrees.
yes. That wouldn't be a full year, so let's say we get closer to the end of the year, it's gonna be,
Yeah,
even
that's
just a
right.
portion of those, as each payroll falls off, that money is gone and it can't be spent. It's not like you would, catch up or anything.
I
So,
can pull that direction, but my argument back was you haven't needed it in 2 years. You don't have that much more workload. Why all of a sudden do you need it? Just because you found somebody? And you haven't needed it in 2 years?
Yeah. That's kind of what we.
I'm gonna, that's gonna be my question.
And that's good, and that's why they have to come back, so those questions be asked. Okay, one other thing is we will discuss department head funding, next week some too. Now, that doesn't go into effect until September, isn't that right, Francis?
I'm sorry, Judge, I couldn't hear the first part.
Justin, can you repeat,
Sorry, Judge was just saying that we can talk about department head salaries, and I know the court's well aware of that process and how it's said, and we've completed the department head reviews. And right now, we would be talking about budgeted max for FY23 on department heads. And then in September, the court would be presented the department head salary schedule to actually set that salary. So really two separate things, but did just want to point out, we currently have 4 department heads that are not paid at the budget max. 3 of those are newer hires, being HR director, health services director, and elections administrator, then plus information technology due to that change in the salary for posting purposes. But anyway, just wanted to make the Corps aware of that, and then just kind of refresh those steps in terms of department head salaries.
Yes, and I think sometimes that gets confusing for some departments, like budget versus what they're actually making. So like you said, after the budget is adopted with the max amounts, all the sheets go out for everybody to fill in what they're actually going to make, as well as you all getting the list of department heads to make that same decision.
okay? All right, anything else? Francis or
Sir.
Justin, think of anything else
I do not.
before?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, if not, well, we stand adjourned. Have a good weekend.
Recording stopped.